Heyo YouTube, Flowcat here, and welcome to the video. Today, we are going to be discussing Forspoken, a game that has received much bad press since its release, and in my opinion, it does not deserve all of this bad press. It's actually a pretty fantastic game, and I think the test of time will be kind to this game, and I'm gonna give you some reasons why. But yeah, strap in, today's video is gonna be very ranty. I have a bunch of points written down of things I don't like and do like about the game, including specifics, and pretty much I'm just gonna go through it all and explain specifically why I think Forspoken is a game that we will remember for a long time. And not for the bad reasons. Partially for some bad reasons, but also for some very, very good reasons. Just to be clear, I put about 20 hours into the game, and I know that's not a lot of time. I haven't pushed the story very much, and I haven't gotten very far. I've just been spending a lot of time fighting enemies, enjoying the game, exploring mechanics, that kind of stuff. But I have watched almost the entire game through playthroughs on YouTube. Specifically, I watched Fighting Cowboy's entire playthrough of the game, and once I got like 3/4 of the way through it, I was like, you know what? I want to buy this game. The reason I started watching Fighting Cowboy's playthrough of the game was because it was getting so much bad press. I was like, I'm not gonna buy this game if it sucks. I'll just watch someone else play it, and you know, that way I'll be in the loop. But as Fighting Cowboy was nearing the end of the game, I realized this game was drawing my attention. I mean, the combat looked really interesting. It looked fun and exciting. The parkour looked cool. I thought, you know what? This game is getting so much bad attention. I want to try it out myself. So I bought it. So yeah, I have not played nearly all of the game or gotten super duper far into it. So there's probably a lot more content or a lot more opinions that I will build on the game as time goes on. But generally speaking, I have seen the entire game and I have played about 20 hours of it. So I think I have a rather fair shake of the experience, if you will. All right, so before I get into praising the game, I want to share some things that I genuinely don't like about the game, things that I've noticed that have bugged me and that I'm hoping can be patched or worked on as they update the game in the future. I don't want this video to be me shilling for the game or me just praising it to high heavens. There are some issues with the game. It's not perfect. No game is. So I just want to be clear and transparent about the things that I'm actually frustrated with the game. All right, to start things off, optimization. This is the biggest thing that I think needs the most attention in this game. The optimization is poor. Poor to say the least. I have a Giga computer. My computer is a Chad, and my computer should not be struggling with this game at all. But I cannot run max settings. I have to run optimized settings. Now, I will say there are some optimized settings that you can mess around with. I will include a link to a YouTube video showing off the optimized settings and showing off all the different settings and how they affect, you know, your FPS and stuff like that. So you can follow this optimized setting list and it'll boost your FPS by like 40-50%, which is really good. Personally, I have not had too many issues with the game, but there are certain sections of the game where the environments are very dense with buildings, loot, and enemies. I've noticed that my computer struggles in those areas. Specifically, I want to point out Sila's castle, the area right before you go into her castle, the big keep area. Yeah, my computer was struggling on max settings. I think I have some footage of me playing in that area on max settings and then on the optimized settings, and you can tell a big difference in the smoothness of the gameplay. In some of the less cluttered areas of the game, I can run on max settings without any frame dropping or anything like that, but I think I'm just gonna leave the settings on the optimized settings. If you look at the comparison between the optimized and the max settings, the difference really isn't that crazy. The game looks virtually the same. The clouds look like just a little less res, and you know, it's not that bad. So if anyone buys Forspoken and you're having frame drops or whatever, that link will be there for you to check that out. All right, so that's the big one, optimization. They need to work on that. The next thing that I would like to bring up is that there is a heavy emphasis on emotion and personal relationships in the story, but there are virtually no facial expressions. So when you're watching the characters interact, it just is very weird to see very few facial expressions combined with a lot of emotional dialogue, right? So there are some moments that are supposed to be very emotional in the game, but they're sort of stunted by the fact that the models are sort of just like standing there staring at each other with their mouths moving. So I think that that's a little unsettling sometimes when people are talking to you and they're talking about something really sad. They're just like, yeah, and then that person died, and you know, it's weird. It's a little weird. Speaking of conversations, one other thing that has been bugging me is that when you go to initiate a conversation with someone, you have to be standing in front of them, and you also have to be facing them in order to initiate the conversation. In most video games, you can just run up to someone and hit the interact button, and it doesn't matter if you're standing above, below, behind, in front, or beside them. You can start the conversation, but that is not how it works in Forspoken. You have to stand directly in front of the person, shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye, and you have to press the interact button at that point, or else you will not be able to interact with that person at all. This is just a little bit annoying because the movement is a little slippery in Forspoken, which is usually not a big deal because you're traversing large distances. But when you're trying to initiate a conversation with someone and you're slipping around and you're having trouble facing the correct direction, that can be a little frustrating. The last thing that I want to complain about is probably small beans or something like that. So you have cuff, the thing on your wrist or whatever, and you can scan the environment to get the lay of the land for enemies, for loot, treasure chest, that kind of thing. The default key binding is X, which is just horrendous because if you're supposed to be pressing this all the time, X is a really inconvenient key to be pressing all of the time. Particularly what I wanted to complain about is the fact that I feel like it doesn't mark things for very long. So I find myself like spamming the cuff scan key to like find out where things are, and I wish it just kept things marked for a little bit longer or something like that. I don't know, it just feels like you have to use that function a lot, and I definitely recommend rebinding it, like if you have a button on the side of your mouse or something, to something way more convenient, because you're gonna press that button like every 30 seconds outside of combat. So those are pretty much my major complaints about the game. Just generally, I think that optimization is the big deal. Everything else isn't really like that big of a deal, but optimization is a big deal, and I really hope that they can, you know, adjust things so that I can just play on max settings and I don't have to feel weird for running a game on subpar settings with my GigaChad computer. Anyway. Okay, so now I want to get into giving praises to the game. I am aware that a lot of people are jumping on a hate bandwagon with this game, and I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think a lot of people are playing this game expecting to hate it, or they don't like the idea of the game in the first place, and they're just like, yeah, the game's bad. Yeah, it sucks. I knew it was gonna suck. I was right all along. Like these little gremlins out here just like sucking on the hate energy. And I hate to see it, because this game, you can tell the developers put a lot of time into it. And if honestly, if they don't use this combat system and this parkour system for something in the future, I'm gonna be really sad. I really, really want to see this combat system used or even advanced in further iterations of Forspoken or maybe some other game. I don't know. I don't care. I just think that the gameplay loop, the parkour, and the combat itself is so satisfying and so good. Like, I really don't want to see that go away. So like, you know, I just wanted to start off with that. Everyone, I think, can agree that the combat and that the gameplay itself is fantastic. I've seen that time and time again. A lot of people say everything else sucks and the combat and the gameplay carries the game. And I do agree that that's like the best part of the game, but like that's the thing about games, is that you're playing the game. So like you're spending almost all of your time playing the game, like doing combat and parkour and stuff. So like 90% of the game is good, and then, you know, so anyway. For the other part of the game, the story is also a big part of the game. The lore, the story, the world building, and Frey, who is the main character of the game. Now, I've seen a lot of people give Frey a ton of crap online. And to be honest, at first, I had seen a bunch of clips of her like cussing and just like freaking out and being angry or whatever. And I thought, wow, this character is unhinged. Like, who would behave in such a way? But then I watched Fighting Cowboy's playthrough of the entire game, and in the context of the situations and in the context of the entire game, she's really a great character. Like, she's pretty well written, and yeah, she's a little abrasive, but I mean, she's from New York. That's kind of the brand, right? But there are a few examples of some things I wanted to bring up that people have been talking about that I think are like really weird. So the first thing is that, spoiler alert, here we go. Here's a spoiler. Get ready for a spoiler if you haven't played the game. Spoiler, you murder someone. Frey murders a Tanta, the first one, Tanta Sila, that you go to. You end up fighting her, and in the course of it, she die. And Frey is very emotionally distraught by this. As a matter of fact, Frey has witnessed death and destruction on a scale that she has never seen before prior to coming to Athia. So understandably, after this series of traumatic events, Frey is rather shook, and she's not entirely feeling so great about the fact that she had to murder someone. And now, of course, whether it's justified or not does not play into the fact that murder is murder, and killing someone sucks, and it's not fun. Now, this is an issue that I've had with video games a lot in the past. Like, nobody wins in war, but in video games, there's a good side and a bad side, and if the good side wins, you win. So, like, in a lot of video games, there's this emotional detachment from the bad guys. Like, you beat the bad guys and then you walk out and you're like, yeah, I just killed someone, I feel so good about myself. But that's not real. That's not reality. That's not how people really react to things. And I think in Forspoken, they did a really good job of showing Frey having trouble adjusting to the traumas and the real emotional issues of Athia. I mean, sure, she was struggling in New York, but she didn't have to kill anyone. So I see a lot of people saying things like, I don't understand why Frey is freaking out over having to kill someone. But I mean, murder is really not good for your brain. And I think it's really cool that they decided to show a more human response to a lot of these events that are happening in the game. So no, Frey doesn't have the emotional resilience of most video game characters, but that's because she's more human than a lot of video game characters. A lot of video game characters are this blank yes man slate where, like, they just do everything everyone asks and accept every fundamental change to everything that happens in their world, and they just don't bat an eye at anything. That's ridiculous. So I like that Frey has emotional, responses to things, and that she has to develop through those throughout the game. So Frey's cool. Like, she's not the best character I've ever seen in my life, but people are crapping on her so much. Like, I think it's unreasonable. Like, I think she's a well-written character, and I don't think she's like, again, I don't think she's the best character I've ever seen in my entire life, but this hate bandwagon is beyond insane. Like, I know some people have said, oh, if she were a man, this wouldn't be such a big deal. And I don't know. I don't want to, like, say it's sexism, but she's really not that bad. If you take a bunch of clips out of context of her, like, from some of her cringier moments, I can understand how you could develop an opinion that she's a poor written character. But just watch the whole story and you get a broader idea that she's not just like this horrible swearing gremlin. All right, enough about that. We're going to talk about the music. The music is great. This is one of the only games where I booted it up and I hit the title screen. Title screen. This is one of the only games where I booted it up and hit the title screen and I didn't hate the music. I didn't hate it. Like, usually you boot up a game and you just want to mute it the second the title music comes on because it's super loud and super obnoxious and just too much, okay? It's too much. It's overstimulating. The intro music, the title music to Forspoken, made me sit there and listen to it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I literally spent 5 minutes just sitting at the title screen being like, dang, this song is good. Like, why did they throw a banger at the beginning of on the title screen? Like, this is awesome. So I do want to shout out the composers, Gary Scheinman, who did the music from BioShock, which, if you haven't played BioShock, such good music. And then Bear McCreary from God of War Ragnarok, which is a huge one, and Walking Dead, the TV series. So those are some very talented composers at work in this game, working together, and they have created some really, really good music. The ambient feeling of the world created by the music is just top notch, and they've used the music really cleverly in the game. For instance, combat is obviously a big part of this game, and one thing about combat is that you have to be careful about your approach. You actually can get a better combat rating by being the first to strike, by getting a jump on the enemies. So to encourage this kind of gameplay, what they've done is that when you're out exploring, if you come up close to enemies, it'll swap over to sort of like this tentative battle music before the combat starts. You have the exploration music, and then you have sort of this warning music that like battle is imminent, and then you have the actual battle music. Now, I really like this design because, like I mentioned before, the cuff scan is kind of annoying to have to do all the time, and when you're running around parkouring at very fast speeds, it's very easy to just run straight into an enemy. So having this music as sort of a warning system, like, hey, you better be careful, there's something very close to you that could start a fight, it's really helpful and prevents you from having to cuff scan like a million times per minute. All right, so those are the big things that I like about the game, and now I just want to mention a couple specifics that I really like for the game. So first up is EXP for conversations. When you go out of your way in video games and you talk to NPCs and you just have these interactions with people, most of the time you get virtually nothing from it. Most of the time you actually get nothing from it in video games. In Forspoken, they've done a really nice thing. They give you experience for talking to people, not just for doing the side quests, but actually for going to like the pub and trying a new beer. You get experience for stuff like that. That makes these side tasks a lot more rewarding and worthwhile, and it also makes sense. Like, yeah, you're experiencing the world, you should be sort of growing as a character by interacting with these people. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. That's something that I think a lot of video games could, I don't know, maybe not adapt completely, but having some reward system for these side conversations is very nice, very welcomed. Another thing that I really like is battle ratings. I think battle ratings are such a good system to include in a game like this because combat is so intense, so fast paced, and it's really easy to just fall into a pattern of like, I'm just gonna mash this one button over and over until they die. The battle rating system itself can give you guidance on how to improve your combat. So by going out and fighting enemies in the world, you can kind of see where your skill level is by literally getting a battle rating for your skill for that fight, and that can be a very satisfying mechanic. You know, you start out getting some C's and D's and E's, and then you start getting B's and A's, and you start really flying through it, and you get the stars and stuff, and it's very good. It's very satisfying. I like the battle rating system. I like that it affects the experience you get. The better you perform in combat, the more experience you get. It really incentivizes, you know, actually performing really well. Spell challenges are really cool. They are these things that you can do where you pick up a specific challenge related to a specific spell, and when you complete it, it boosts your overall spell magic, but it also boosts that one specific spell. Some of these are incredibly important. Like there's this one for Shimmy, where once you do the spell challenge, performing Shimmy will restore your stamina, which is incredibly useful, super useful, because your stamina is like your lifeline in Forspoken in a lot of ways. So having these specific spell challenges are just really nice, something to go and do on your own time to kind of level up and progress your character. It leads into a couple other things, like the exploration and the progression are very satisfying in Forspoken. The overall gameplay loop is very satisfying. I feel like the upgrade systems are not too complicated. They're really easy to grasp, but they have a level of complexity to it that sort of feels like you have this layered progression to your character. You have your gear, you have your nails, you have to go get these monuments for permanent stat upgrades, you can explore for new spells, for new things. You know, it's like everything you do is kind of contributing to the growth of your character, and it's very nice. It does have a very satisfying progression to the game. Another thing I want to shout out are some of the options in the menus for this game. I know that's like kind of a weird thing to shout out, but there's a ton of balance options in this game. Like if you're struggling with the combat and you like the story, or if you want the combat to be harder and you just want the super challenge, you can go into these gameplay balance settings and you can change some things that are pretty drastic, I'm not gonna lie. So that's something to really check into. It can really change your experience with the game if you're struggling a lot or if you want to struggle more. As well, there are some options that I think are super important to know about. There's one that makes Cuff talk less often. I think the default rate of speech for Cuff and Frey, you know, the default interaction frequency is just, it's ridiculously high. I think they talk way too much to the point where you start hearing repeats really often and it gets a little tiring. I love the banter between Cuff and Frey. I think it's funny. I think a lot of it is, the first time you hear some of those lines, you get a really good chuckle out of it. You know, it's like, it's very good. But after the 100th time, you start to get sick of it. Okay. So the default setting, I'll show it. There's like a setting for Cuff chatter. Now you can turn it down to low, which will just make it less frequent, although it's still rather frequent. Honestly, I think low should have been the default. Then there's another setting called minimal. This setting will only let Cuff speak when it's like story related stuff, you know, like necessary things. So you can turn off that banter entirely if it's bugging you. I know that's something that people talked about. It is actually an option that you can turn off. I definitely recommend looking through the setting menu. A lot of good things in there. All right, so I just looked down and I've been recording this video for 30 minutes. I've been ranting about Forspoken for 30 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up. I'm gonna make a tips video after this. I've noticed some things about combat that are not obvious and some ways to, you know, make things a lot faster, because I've noticed some people fighting enemies and sort of taking a long time to get through them. And honestly, there's a lot of strategies that you can use that helps you with combat and makes it just a lot more fun, but also way easier. There's just a lot of tips and tricks that I want to share with everybody. So I'm going to be making one of those videos right after this. I hope that if you check out Forspoken, you enjoy the game. I think it's really good. I think in the next couple years, the game will be looked upon fondly. I just think that the reception of it is kind of bad. It kind of reminds me of some other games that are very popular nowadays that we really love, but when they came out, they were sort of like lukewarm reception because the story sucked or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But then as time goes on, people are like, you know, these games are actually really good. So that's all I wanted to say about it. I just sort of wanted to get these opinions out there. I know there's a lot of people talking a lot of crap about Forspoken, but if you're having fun in the game and you're enjoying the story and the combat and everything, just enjoy it. You know, just know you're not alone. There are people like me that are also like, wow, this is a good game. This is possibly even a great game. And if they develop it and update it and, you know, maybe some DLCs or something, it's got a bright future for Forspoken. This could be a brand new franchise. Like literally just with the combat system and the parkour system alone, they could spawn an entire franchise around that. But I think that there's more that they could work with. I mean, they have an entire world they've built. They have good lore. They have a lot that they could work with. So this could be the beginning of a really cool franchise, and I'm super excited for the future of Forspoken, and I'm also very excited to jump back into the game after I'm done recording these videos. All right, and that's gonna wrap up this video. I will have the link to the optimized settings down in the comment below. There's a link to my Discord in the description of this video. If you'd like to join, we've got a friendly community in there. I'm changing over to variety content, so I'm going to be making a bunch of videos about a bunch of random stuff, whatever I feel like talking about at the time. And if you want to get notified of those videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button, the bell notification, all that wonderful stuff. Make sure to drop a like on the video. And until next time, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Peace.